Hello and welcome to the Matthew Allton Art channel again. I thought I'd do a blocking out video this time so that people can see how I start my small still life oil paintings. I took a photograph of 3 strawberries on my mantelpiece, quite a dusty mantelpiece to be fair, in May, and I did the blocking out soon after I took the photograph actually, but I actually finished the painting recently. So this is the actual reference photograph, and let's see how I began this painting. Well, as you can see, I'm starting by drawing out where the strawberries are. It's something that I often do. I sometimes not very detailed in doing this, but this one I'm trying to get it sort of quite realistic. So I'm trying to be careful where I place things. You can see that I started and did the strawberries too big to start with, so I erased them and started again. I suppose we should talk a bit about what blocking out is for those of you that don't know. And it's basically covering the white surface, or whatever surface you're painting on, with the base colours of the actual subject matter. And that's really good for sort of helping you to make tonal choices as you develop the painting further. So you don't put any detail in to start with, but it's just a matter of blocking in the main shapes. So you can see I'm fairly happy with the drawing there, and I'm just lightening the drawing there so that I don't get any of the pencil mixing with the paint. It doesn't matter so much with oil paints because they're quite dense anyway. So here you can see that I've begun the blocking out process, and I'm just putting the dark of the mantelpiece on, not particularly any of the subtle shadows or highlights on that at all, just blocking in the main colour. And you can see already that adding that dark makes the white pop much more. So it's good for helping you to judge things tonally in a painting. Again, a flat blocking in of the strawberry, the base red of the strawberry. Now in the actual final painting, I'll show you that at the end of this video, although I haven't got footage of me actually creating that, the final stages. But you'll see that there's lots of variations of red within there. So I'm just putting the very basic tones on, and I'm indicating some shadow there by using a darker red in the shadowed areas. But again, no detail at this point. You can see I'm sort of trying to highlight some of the highlights as well on the other side. The light is coming sort of from the left of this painting. I'm using Daler-Rowney graduate oils as usual for this painting, and I'm using Gamsol for thinning the paint, but also for washing the brushes, and Galkyd medium as well to thin the paint, which is a bit like oil. It makes the paint more spreadable. You can see I've started to indicate just basic shadows underneath the strawberries again. And here I'm trying to indicate some of the highlight colour on the red of the strawberries. Of course, the thing that's going to make this painting sing is not these base tonal variations and flat colours. It will be the detail that I add. So all the seeds, for instance, and the detail on the leaves and things like that. It's very unusual for me to paint an underpainting and let it dry and then work over the top. With oil paints, I'm very much an alla prima painter and paint in one sitting. But the same principle would apply. I would still sort of do the base layers first, and I'd paint those very thinly with little paint, and then you can add the details on top of that without the paint mixing too much when they're wet. Because I didn't have that issue this time, because the underpainting was very dry by the time I started that. Just indicating the shadow there behind the strawberries. Again, not much detail at this stage. and the wall, which is behind the mantelpiece, is white. So again, I've just indicated that it's off-white, so I've put some darker shades on that. Now indicating the basic green of the leaves. And again, I won't get any further than indicating where they are at this point and putting a flat colour in. All the details and the shadows and that sort of thing will come when I finish the painting. Again, trying to just indicate some of the base shadow to make these sort of red objects 3D without adding the detail at this point. To get those shadows, you should really mix the complementary of the colour. So in this case, some green with the red, and that will desaturate the red, and that helps you to get the deep shadows on something as red as this. To be fair, you've seen the photo at the beginning of this video. The strawberries are so red that it's difficult to see some of the detail on them. You know, they're so vibrant, they're almost luminous, really, and it's difficult to try and get that in the painting. But I think I succeeded by the end. Well, that's pretty much the underpainting done. So that's blocking out. Well, this is the blocking out stage of the painting as it looked in May when I'd finished. I actually did this drawing during a drink and draw with my patrons. I supplied the reference photos for them, some strawberries, some tomatoes, different things, and we all did our thing while we chatted. And this is what I ended up with by the end of that sort of social evening session. And this is actually no detail in it whatsoever, as you can see, as I've said earlier on in the video. Just basic green for the leaves in the right place. So I've drawn out the leaves and where they are, but very basic shadows and highlights to indicate the basic roundness of the strawberries. Some shadows and highlights on the mantelpiece as well, but that was it. Then it was left for a long time until July, which is when I've just finished doing it. And it's then that I add the detail and make it look like the realist painting that it has become. And this is the final painting with all the detail that's been added since. So you can see that the leaves have changed. There's shadowed areas on those leaves. There are seeds. There are reflections around the seed, sort of indentations. And there's much more variation in colour on the strawberries, more detail on the mantelpiece, and you can see that it's a sort of realist painting, not photorealistic. I never want to create a photograph. I had one of those right at the beginning of this video. I like people to see the brush strokes in my work, but it's real enough looking for my sort of style of work. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it's given you some pointers if you're new to oil painting as to how to begin a painting. I personally would recommend doing still lives if you're new to painting, and it's easy to work from photographs rather than the live thing as well, so make things easier for yourself to start with when you're learning. But that's it. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, then give the video a thumbs up. If you are new here and found me by chance, then do consider subscribing. It will help the channel grow, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for your time. Bye.